funky.
Scary Things Kids Say Part 1. While changing my daughter in front of the open closet door, she kept looking around me and laughing. I asked her what was so funny. She said, "The man." To which I replied, "What man?" She then pointed at the closet and said, "The man with the snake neck." I turned around and nothing was there. I'm afraid to look into the history of the house to see if anyone hung themselves in the closet. At least she wasn't scared. Not to me, but to his grandmother. He was cuddling with her and being very sweet. He was about 3 at the time. He takes her face in his hands and brings his face close to hers, then tells her that she's very old and will die soon. Then he makes a point of looking at the clock. What the hell? My 3-year-old daughter stood next to her newborn brother and looked at him for a while, then turned and looked at me and said, "Daddy, it's a monster. We should bury it." What the fuck? Scary Things Kids Say Part 2. I was sound asleep and at around 6 a.m. I was woken by my 4-year-old daughter's face inches from mine. She looked right into my eyes and whispered, "I want to peel all your skin off." The backstory here is I had been sunburned the previous week and I was starting to peel. In my sleep out state, however, it was pretty terrifying for a few seconds. I didn't know if I was dreaming or what was going on. My coworker's 4-year-old daughter always thought that the rattling of the water pipes in the kitchen cupboards were white wolves, and the sound always scared her. One day she was sitting at the kitchen table and she said, "Mom, the white wolves aren't bad. They're our friends." Her mom encouraged the idea by saying, "Yes, the white wolves are protecting us. They're our friends." Then her daughter added in, "They're our friends, but not the man who crawls on the floor and stands by my bed." What the fuck? No! Scary Things Kids Say Part 3. When I was a waitress, I watched a little girl Forge stab her plastic fork into her sandwich, repeatedly saying, "Die, die, die." When I asked her what she was doing, her mom was in the bathroom for a minute. She replied with a straight face, "I like to kill things, but mom says I shouldn't, so I picked the ham because it can't scream." Throw the whole fucking kid away. My daughter said to me that there is a woman who watches her watch movies in her room and sleeps on the ceiling above her bed when she sleeps. She also says it does not like me and wants to eat my heart. My kid watches Elmo and fucking Dinosaur Train. Where in the hell did she get this from? I was babysitting my 4-year-old niece and we're watching cartoons when she looks over, dead serious, and wonders, "So what's gonna happen to us when we die in 2 weeks?" What the fuck? No, hell nah. That's it. I'm not having kids. No, fuck that shit. Because what am I supposed to do if my kid turns and looks at me and says this fucking shit? I'll fucking run away for real. Fuck that. Scary Things Kids Say Part 4. When my son was little, maybe 3, he used to do this weird crawl where he would slide his forehead along the floor. That was pretty creepy in itself. Then one night, he crawled across the hallway into my room like that and stood up a few inches away from my face and made a weird meow sound.
Meow.
So sorry. He got into bed with me and went to sleep. Another time he was freaking out about a monster in the basement, so we went down and saw nothing, of course. And as I turned out the light and headed upstairs, he said, "He's right behind us now." I might have peed a little. Possibly the creepiest thing he did was one day I scolded him for misbehaving, so he hid his head under this blanket. I pretended I couldn't find him by saying, "Where's my little Carson?" He slowly lowered the blanket with a dead evil stare, said, "Carson is gone. I am Rick. I'm certain he's possessed. We never knew any Ricks as far as I can remember. Still don't. Never figured out where he picked up that name." No. Scary Things Kids Say Part 5. When my sister was 4, she walked by my bed and saw scissors. She stopped, looked back at them, and then said, "You know, I could chop your head off with these. Good night." No. When my son was 3, we were driving at night and passed a big, empty house with no lights on. He pointed to the house, started waving his tiny hand, and said, "There's a clown in there." I refused to take that road ever since. No. I was a camp counselor, and while running a program called Paint the Counselors, a 4-year-old leaned in behind me, started painting my hair, and whispered in my ear, "I'm gonna peel off all your skin." What the hell? My daughter and I went for a walk through a cemetery while we waited for my son to finish his piano lessons next door. She stopped dead in the middle of the graveyard, pointed at a grave, spaced out, and said, "This is where you're going to sleep forever." Billy the Zombie from Hocus Pocus. Scary Things Kids Say Part 6. One of my preschool students decided to tell us about the man who watches over her from the doorway while she sleeps. She told us that he gets very close to her face, and when she tells him to leave her alone, he disappears. So spooky. Fuck yeah! What the? No! Help her, Miss Honey! I walked into the bathroom to get my 4-year-old out of the bath, and she quietly said, "Mom, all my toys are dead. I held them under the water and now they're dead." She then whispered over and over again, "Dead in the water, dead in the water, dead in the water." My mom's grandfather died very close to her wedding day. When my brother was born and first learned to talk, he'd always talk about a man named Steve. Steve was my great-grandfather's name. My mom asked what Steve looked like, and he described my grandfather perfectly. My brother would talk about how Steve would take him fishing and everything. One day my brother woke up from a nap and said, "Steve left. He says he loves us and he will see us again soon." Scary Things Kids Say Part 7. My 4-year-old daughter randomly said to me, "I want to know what the inside of your head looks like." I was in a grocery store and walked by a mother with her 5-year-old. The little boy smiled and waved, so I smiled and waved back. Then he said, "You should eat your friends for dinner. That's what we do." My cousin's front door randomly opened by itself, and her 3-year-old son said, "Hi, Uncle Pat." Pat was my cousin's brother who died 10 years earlier, but her son had never even been told about him. My little cousin came home and started staring at all the Christmas decorations. He said, "It'll take 11 days." 11 days later, we went out for dinner and an intruder took most of our decorations. I was changing my daughter's diaper in the middle of the night when my 2-year-old came in and stood next to me. She looked at me with a big smile and in a sing-song voice said, "Mommy, there's somebody behind you." The scary thing was that we were home alone. Scary Things Kids Say Part 8. My friend's 4-year-old had an imaginary friend, Jenna. One time we were in the car and stopped at a red light next to the cemetery. She looked up and said, "Bye, Jenna." Her mom asked where Jenna was going. She then pointed at the cemetery and said, "Home, she lives there." Shoot, I'd be saying bye, Jenna too. Fuck that. When our second daughter was born, our 3-year-old whispered in her ear, "Tell me what God looks like. I forget." It freaked my husband and me out. I was changing my daughter's shirt and I got a feeling that there was another person around, but we were home alone. My daughter looked behind me and said, "She's hanging from the roof, Mommy. Don't look." Never have I moved so fast in my life. Yeah, no kids for me, nope. We were walking outside and my younger brother got scared of how loud the church bells were and started to cry. I had no recollection of this, but my mom swore that I comforted him by saying, "Don't worry, I used to be scared of them too before I died, but I'm not anymore." What? Scary Things Kids Say Part 9. I was watching TV and my 5-year-old sister cuddled up next to me and started to make circles with her fingers around my lips. She said, "A man is going to shoot you. You're gonna die, soon." She normally giggles when she lies, but this time she was straight-faced. I told her to stop and she said, "It's the truth, I promise," which is what she was taught to say when she's telling the truth. My mom told stories about when I was younger. I'd scream out of nowhere and point to the corner of the room and cry about a scary lady. 5 years later, when my brother was the same age I was, he started screaming and pointing at the same corner, mentioning a scary lady. Fuck no! I was watching a movie with my niece and she looked up and asked, "Who's sitting next to you?" I told her that no one was and she said, "No, there's a tall man with red hair sitting next to you. His name is Alex. He says hi." My ex's name was Alex. Guys, I don't want to read the first sentence just in case it triggers anybody, but, sorry. I just don't want to read it. Scary Things Kids Say Part 10. This is my cousin a while ago. He was maybe 6. He'd been telling his mom that a lady comes in his room and tickles his feet at night. Everyone was like, okay. Then one day we were going through old family photos and he came across a photo of his grandmother who passed away when he was a baby. He pointed to the photo and told his mom, "That's the lady that tickles my feet." Still spooks me to think about. We'll definitely have my feet inside the blankets tonight. We were walking in the local cemetery. Why are people still walking in cemeteries? Did I scare anyone? We were walking in the local cemetery and my little one pointed out where the children's section was by saying, "Bye-bye, babies." I had not told him those were the children's graves. My son made me explain to him in detail what happens after a person dies and how a body decomposes. Now he likes to randomly say, "Worms are gonna eat my body one day," and his little sister always gets scared and runs away. That one's kind of silly. Scary Things Kids Say Part 11. My 4-year-old daughter asked the restaurant worker, why can't I say that? My 4-year-old daughter asked the restaurant worker, are you going to die today? She smiled as she said it too. Not me, but my sister. One night, their power went out, so she was laying in bed with her, at the time 2-year-old, to keep the little one warm. Sister was telling little one a story, and when she finished, little one said, the little boys want to hear another story. As she pointed to the end of the bed, sister only has daughters. Fuck that. One time when my daughter was 5, my husband was working night shifts and I was home alone with her in our fairly rural and remote home. She came into my bedroom about 2 a.m. I can't sleep. The man outside the window was watching me. There was no one there, but I did not sleep that night. My oldest son is named after my father who died before I had my kids. When my oldest was younger, he would say, remember when I used to sing to you when you were a baby? And kind of smile like he was remembering a happy memory. Scary Things Kids Say Part 12. Go back to sleep. There isn't anything under your bed. He's behind you now. Still haven't gotten over that one and shiver at the memory. I was tucking in my 2-year-old. He said, goodbye, Dad. I said, no. We say goodnight. He said, I know, but this time it's goodbye. Had to check on him a few times to make sure he was still here. When my cousin was 2 years old or so, her mom got pregnant again. One day she went to hug her mom's belly and said, little brother's sick. A few days later, she had a miscarriage. Oh, that's so sad. Why are you crying? Bad man. What bad man? There. Points behind me at the dark corner of the room. Lamp on bookshelf next to said darkened corner falls off as soon as I turn to look. She slept in our bed that night. I'd move the fuck out. My 5-year-old asked me when he was going to be 23. I told him in 18 years. He replied, well, I hope I don't die again, cause that's how old I was last time I went to heaven.